Okay, we are live, and I see people starting to come in.
I notice young Natasha from Denmark. Nice to see you, Natasha.
Natasha. Oh, this is great. Welcome, everybody.
Rochelle, nice to see you, Rochelle.
Dana, Doug, Laura, Mystique. Wow, I see so many beautiful names. So many beautiful names. Sarah, Shanti, Brooks, Danielle. Oh my God, so many beautiful names. Yeah, welcome everybody. I'd love to hear from you where you're calling from. Love to see where in the world we all are. UK, Canada, Austin, Seattle, Amsterdam, Italy, Jordan. Wow. Sweden.
Martina.
Nice.
Lyman.
Ooh, Hawaii. Israel represents. I'm also calling from Israel.
Sarah. All right, Yaniv, why don't we get started, and I'll do a master DJ slow fade out of the music.
Perfect, Chris. That was just smooth as butter.
Yeah, my DJ part is very excited. Welcome, Randy from Poland. Nice. Yeah.
Nice. DJ Gray. Yeah, welcome everybody. I am really, really excited that you're joining us today for this really relational webinar around what we're doing here and why we're here. And yeah, why are we here? Well, we're here to talk about this this beautiful combination between things that we both love, which are internal family systems and authentic relating. And yeah, I'm kind of curious if people could chime in how much they know, like if people don't know authentic relating, if they don't know IFS, if they do know both. I'm just curious, what's the like level of knowledge here in the crowd? Interesting. So I see there's some love for both, people that know a bit of both. Shanti, Anne knows both. Beautiful. Nice.
Joanne. Yeah, thanks everyone. Welcome. It feels great to have you all here. My name's Chris, and I'm a facilitator at ART of our Authentic Relating courses. And my background really is in circling training, which is a type of authentic relating practice. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But in this practice of authentic relating and circling, I got the chance to really develop my capacity to slow down and be with someone else, offer them presence, and be with them in a group and get really curious about them. And then as I started to learn a little bit more about internal family systems, I saw so much overlap between the skills and capacities that I get a chance to practice externally with what happens in my internal world in IFS. So I reached down to Yaniv, a friend of mine who's also part of the art teaching team, and suggested, hey, it could be external, it could be internal. Why don't we put something together where we blend both? So really glad that you said yes, Yaniv, and I'm looking forward to a little bit more. So my background is predominantly in authentic relating. Maybe you could say a little bit about yourself, Yaniv.
Mm, thank you, Chris. Yeah, I'm noticing a part of me that was really impressed by your presentation of yourself. And yeah, just like a part that's like, yeah, that was good. That was tight. That was like impressive. And then I noticed another part of me that's saying like, I can't do that. I can't like present myself in like in such an impressive way. So I'm noticing both those parts in me, and I'm grateful for both the practices of IFS and internal family systems for allowing me to be with them and not be consumed by them. So yeah, I'm Yaniv. I've been working with IFS for about 2 years, and I've been working with authentic relating, I think, more than a year and a half. And I think from the first moments that I introduced to authentic relating, I started to see this correlation that Chris is talking about. Uh, we're all made of these parts, and we'll talk about this in a bit about this IFS idea for anyone who isn't aware of it, or some who are, to refresh and see it from different this AR light. Um, yeah, I'm really happy to be here and talk about this. So thank you for the invitation, Chris, and thank you for joining us.
Right on. Thanks, Yaniv. Why don't we go right into an experience to get us started? So it seems like many of you have found the chat feature in Zoom. Make sure it's set to everyone for this next one. And my invitation is authentic relating is a lot about what's actually here for us in the present moment. So I'd like to invite you in the chat to just post one word about how you're feeling in this moment, being on this webinar. And everything is included. All is welcome. So if you just take a moment, and after you post, you might look in the chat and notice the different feeling words that people are mentioning. Curious, excited, split, stiff,
Confused, heaviness,
happiness, yeah.
energized, annoyed, grounded, hesitant, proud, rushed, unsure, connected. Wow, so many different experiences.
Reclusive,
Collusive, that's a good one, Sophie.
beautiful. So as you're looking at these in the chat screen, just notice that in some way we're all connected in this moment, having all of these different flavors and feelings. Anne is irritated. I love it. Thank you. The next prompt is to think about the feeling word you said and write a little bit about how you feel toward that part of yourself right now. So for instance, if you're irritated, it would be, how do I feel towards this irritated part in me? If you're curious, how do I feel towards this curious part in me?
Mm.
If you're achy, how do I feel towards this achy part?
Here, Nari says that she's ashamed that she's disappointed.
Mm.
Mm, mm. Proud of an impatient part.
Judgy,
Mm,
uplifted. Yeah, really appreciating the whole spectrum. And sometimes the feelings of impatience or judgment we might have to our own parts in this present moment, defeated and welcoming, beautiful. Yeah, and just a few more coming in. Yeah, inspired. So,
yeah,
so
and
go
yeah,
ahead.
thanks, Chris. Yeah, I really would like to bring into your attention now that we have a relationship. There is a relationship in there between these parts of us. Right? This happens to me all the time where I'm feeling a certain way, and then another part comes up, and I feel a certain feeling around me feeling a certain way, judging myself, or a lot of the things that were written here really resonated with me. Feeling shame over certain feelings, feeling judgy over other feelings, feeling proud of other feelings. Yeah. So there is already a relationship inherent. All we did was like focus you towards it.
Yaniv, why don't you, maybe this is a good time to share a little bit more about just the basics of IFS. Um, are you able to share your screen?
Yeah, let's do that. And I really want to invite everybody to slow down, take it slow. If some parts of you that are overloaded with information, um, just like take a breath. I'm going to go through it. Um, I'm going to do a very short introduction of IFS because I can really speak a lot about it. Yes, Chris.
Yeah, and as Yaniv is loading that up, like to draw your attention into the Zoom application. Somewhere in there, perhaps at the bottom, you'll see a Q&A option. And this is a place that Yaniv and I will look for specific questions that come up for you. So we'll use it slightly differently than the chat, which will be group sharing. So if you do have a question that comes up as Yaniv starts to share through the remainder of this webinar, please go ahead and put it in the Q&A and we'll periodically check in with it.
All right. Let's see how this goes. So, I contain multitude, famous quote by Walt Whitman. Internal family systems. Um, so, internal family systems, before I dive into the components of it, I have some general comments around it. And so, internal family systems is really a paradigm that's very different from the well spread paradigm that we know. And that is a paradigm of multiplicity. The well spread paradigm is of a monolithic mind, the mono mind, which is that we have one mind. It's made out of one whole thing. And that's it. That's what's accepted right now. And IFS comes in and says, well, no, we're actually made of parts. And more than the fact that we're made of parts, this is completely natural. And it's a good thing. Uh, Parts are usually pathologized in society. Like, if someone is talking to their parts, they necessarily have some kind of mental illness. So IFS goes to change all of that and to understand that our parts are valuable. and they have a very unique essence. So let's talk about these parts. What are these parts? So at the core, we have the self, which is our essence, soul, core being that is naturally compassionate, caring, curious, calm, creative, courageous, confident, and connected. Those are called the 8 C's of self. And the self serves as the internal leader for our parts. It's something we all have deep down, and it's a part of us that's not a part. You know, when you point at yourself and you say me, you know, you don't point here, or you don't point at your hand, you point here at your heart. So I like to think of the self's seat is here in the heart. Another part is the managers. The managers are kind of our day-to-day showrunners, the ones that we're most identified with. They're future-focused, goal-oriented. They take on this role to make sure that we don't get triggered by exile and tense emotions. And I will talk about exiles in a moment. And there's something important for me to say around this. Parts aren't born with these roles. They just take them on in order to protect us, protect the system in a way that they think is valuable. And I'll talk more about that as we talk about our next type of part, which is we'll talk about firefighters in a second. Let's talk about exiles first. Exiles. So exiles are our inner children. They're parts of us that had some kind of experience that was unprocessed, was unable to be processed in the time that it happened. So they had to protect the self. They had to take on these difficult emotions and be cast away from the system because the system was not able to process these emotions. Exiles take on these burdens with them. For example, if as a child you were yelled at by a parent for getting a bad grade, and as a child, it's a very scary thing to get yelled at from a parent. It feels unsafe, and it's something that's very hard to process, or even we don't really have the tools to process the fact that the person that loves us is acting in a violent way towards us. So what happens is these exiles, they take these emotions, these unprocessed emotions, and the system casts them away. And what managers and firefighters do is they keep these exiles away from the system. I'm going to take a breath because this is a lot of information, even though I know all of this information. Yeah. Chris, I'd love to know how this is landing for you so far.
Thanks, Yaniv. Yeah, so what I think I'm getting, let me check this with you, is that there's always parts active in me. Let me check this out. There's always parts active in me. They're always interacting with each other. They seem to know what other parts are doing and feeling. And it creates this kind of dynamic internal ecology that's ever present, ever occurring. They have different roles. Many of them are to keep me safe. And at the center of it all is this aspect of myself that's calm, present, here, expansive, connected, loving. That's what I'm getting so far. And as you're talking, I'm starting to think, like, notice the different parts in me that are coming up, being with you.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, this is important. Thank you for bringing this up and reflecting, because IFS, internal family systems, right? What does that name even mean? So this name comes from Richard Schwartz, the uh, the founder of internal family systems. He was a family therapist, and in family therapy, they talk about family systems. Once um, in a family, each person in the family has a specific role, and sometimes these roles don't serve them, don't serve the family. So once they're able to be released and liberated from that role, then the whole family system changes. And that's the idea around internal family systems, is that this is a system of parts that have certain roles, that have take on certain roles that are not always natural for them. And once we're able to see them, have them be seen, they can liberate themselves from these roles and change and transform the entire system. So I talked about managers and exiles, and I want to just talk briefly about the firefighters. So as I said, managers are day-to-day showrunners. They're the ones that keep us from being triggered by the exiles. They're the ones that keep the exiles locked away by making sure that we don't get triggered, making sure that we avoid conflict or avoid certain people, or do whatever we need to do, or keep exercising, or whatever it is, so that we don't have to feel these feelings of shame, of guilt, of whatever comes up. The firefighters, since we do get triggered, newsflash, Chris, life happens and we do get triggered. Firefighters are the parts of us that are usually the most extreme. They're the ones that come to douse the fire of emotional pain. And they can come in all sorts of ways. They can be in, binges, food binges, Netflix binges. They can be more extreme. They could be the use of drugs. There's even the I would love if you would actually write some examples of firefighters that you think could be things that you can use to alleviate pain, to just move. Yeah. Okay. Alcohol. Yeah. Going for a walk in nature could totally be a firefighter. It really depends why you're doing it. Sex, food, sweets, yoga, exercise. Totally. There's no differentiation. If something is healthy, it doesn't mean it's not a firefighter. It doesn't mean that you don't do it in order to push away feelings and sensations. Yeah. Thank you. Judging, meditation, of course, definitely meditation. So yeah, these are the firefighters, and this is the system. And I want to talk a little bit about the flow, and give really a flow of how these things can happen, can trigger, right? So as we said, we're run by a manager. For example, this manager that makes sure that we don't get yelled at, that we don't we avoid our boss, we avoid people who would have conflict with. And then of course something happens and we do get yelled at, or we do get into a conflict, and then an exile is triggered. So let's say fear, because I was yelled at by a parental figure in a young age and I never was able to process it. So I can't be yelled at. When I am yelled at, I go to this place of either disassociation, the part that has this fear, because it's exiled, it's kind of like an animal in a cage. Every time it feels a little bit of freedom, of like a taste of freedom, anything that remotely is, happens that is remotely reminding them of the original feeling, they burst out and they overwhelm our system. And then, of course, a firefighter comes in and douses the flame, like you said, drugs, alcohol, sex, but also socially acceptable behavior, Netflix, exercise, etc. Things that you said, just to bring the system back to balance. And emotional pain can be so overwhelming that I imagine some of you might even have thought about the ultimate firefighter, which is suicide. Suicide is also a part, and it's a part that's meant to help the system in a way. So this firefighter comes in and there's a binge, there's something, and then what can happen is another exile is triggered. Like, I feel shame for doing this binge, for taking drugs, for drinking alcohol, for using unprotected sex or whatnot. I feel this shame. And then another manager can come in and say, like, okay, that's it. We are done with alcohol, with sex. Like, just, we are done. We're not even thinking about it anymore. And again, take control of the system. Okay. Yeah, Chris, let me check in with you. How are you doing?
I was thinking about when you brought up suicide, Yaniv, and how I know for me, when I go through periods of suicidal ideation, it's in some way, I was realizing this as you're speaking, it's soothing. Like, in some way, thinking about it, like, gives me some sort of bizarre peace. Like, maybe it's like, this is one thing I have control over. This is one thing that won't be uncertain. And so you're really helping me to frame that as a part that's coming in to help me. And maybe we'll speak more a little bit about this, but I know in that particular case, what never fails is connection. If I can come into contact, and for me with other people, that I open up, and those that recedes, and so what I hear you offering us is a way to come in connection internally with that part as well, and I imagine it would receive. So yeah, just really appreciating what you're bringing.
Yeah, thank you for that, Chris. And that's a really, really important point. Um, Connection. And the offer of IFS is internal connection. Like we talked about, I'm only talking about exiles and managers and firefighters, but the self, which I talked about in the beginning, that is our internal leader. That is our the part of us that's not a part, the part of us that is able to see these parts and bring them into connection and bring them into this world where, hey, you're not alone and I see you. And it makes total sense that you're feeling this way. And it makes total sense that you've taken on this role that they usually don't want to do. The managers, the firefighters, the exiles, when you start talking with them, they don't really like the roles that they're in, but they had to take them on. Um, and that's what we do in IFS when it's used for therapy. We help roles create a relationship with self and be seen and help them tell their story and be liberated. Right. Okay. So, yeah, this is the last slide. Just a couple of It's a couple of principles that we talked about. I'm not going to go deep into them, but something you guys can see. Um, and I think I touched on all of these. The one thing I do want to touch on specifically is this notion of no bad parts. There are no, according to IFS, there are no bad parts. No parts of us are inherently bad. As I said, parts have a unique essence and they take on roles because they think they better the system. Um, and through the work of IFS, we don't eliminate parts, we don't push them away, we don't ignore them, we don't delete them. We help them unburden and find their desired roles, what they really want to do for the system. Yeah. Okay, back to you, Chris.
Thanks, Yaniv. I'm just noticing that we have a lot of engagement or several questions in the Q&A. And so what I'd like to do is leave some time at the end to engage with the questions that are coming in through the Q&A. What I'll do right now is to share a little bit about authentic relating, to establish a baseline. And this is all being recorded. So if you've signed up for this, Barbara, you're going to get a recording that will have that slide too available. All right. So extending from what Yaniv was saying about connection, in the self, in the parts, just a quick contextualizing of authentic relating. And for me, authentic relating is whatever's happening for me in the moment, in my inner world. And relating is being with. So being with what's here now between us. And we often speak of 5 practices in authentic relating. If you've taken any of our courses, you will be familiar with these. I'll go ahead and share them for those who haven't. And these 5 practices tend to create a space of connection and being with. So the first practice we use is welcome everything. That continues to be a journey for me, and I often think of it as, can I turn a little bit towards what's here? So if we think about it with what Yaniv has said already, with the different parts, is there a part of me that can turn a little bit towards it and create some space for whatever that part is? Some of the firefighters we've talked about, some that everyone's listed, the managers. The next one is assume nothing. And the way I hold that is, hold what I think I know lightly and find some curiosity. And one thing I see with me, if there's a part in me, or even externally, if I'm engaging with you, if I can bring a little bit of curiosity, like what's it like to be you right now? There's something in me that is able to be curious. And in authentic relating, I think of it as like my witness place, my place of center, equanimity. And I think a lot of this in the IFS world is that self energy. So if I'm able to ask the question, what's this like? I'm already accessing at least a little bit of self energy to proceed to have a relationship. Third one is reveal your experience. If I'm authentic relating with people, I will often share what's actually happening to me underneath the hood to express more of myself, to include more of myself, and to allow you to connect more with me. And so I can feel more connected with you. And in internal family systems, what's interesting is I can start to get curious about the part and listen and let the part reveal itself to me. So many parallels between the two worlds. Owning your experience is to step away from blaming and into the seat of presence and empowerment. And then finally, honoring self and other is the 5th practice. And where I love how this ties in with IFS is, honoring self is taking care of myself, let's say, noticing my boundaries, acting accordingly. Honoring others, like for me, it's, can I treat you as legitimate? Can I legitimize you? If I really understood what you cared about, what you're concerned about, what you love, what you fear, then your behaviors would make total sense to me. So, can I hold you as legitimate? And there's something about being held as legitimate which feels like something. I won't assume what it might be like for you. So that's what really comes alive for me in authentic relating, is that I could think of like my fear. Oh, notice my fear. But what if I considered my fear to be a being or a person, and I legitimized that fear? I could start to come into deeper relationship with it. So this all originated because I'm just so familiar with the circling practice, finding presence in myself, connecting with others, and feeling what it's like for people to be curious about me, and without an agenda to fix, judge, or change. It's like it's just simply being with is the softening. So these are our authentic relating practices, and I'm curious, Yaniv, how what comes up for you as I share a little bit of these before we go into our next exercise.
Um, mm. This is the magic for me. This is the sweet sauce, the point of contention between IFS and AR, which is relationship. At the end of the day, I've come to realize the relationship I have with my parts is no different than the relationship I have with other. If we talk about it in a spiritual way, we are all parts of one another. Um, and that's why authentic relating has been such a revelation for me in my IFS practice. Um, so yeah, thank you for bringing that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I noticed that things that I have a hard time welcoming in me, like maybe a sense of I don't know, like less than or weakness or whatever it might be. I notice I have a hard time welcoming in others when I'm relating with them, and so I'm curious if you see a connection there. The more I'm able to come to contact with myself, the more I can be with you and whatever experience you're having.
Hmm. Yeah, I totally um you know uh Dick Schwartz, he calls these people that we are triggered by our tormentors, because by tormenting us, they show us, there are mentors, they show us there's something in IFS called a trailhead, which is like the beginning of a path towards your to your part, to a part, and that is a beginning of a trail, that trigger. And there's something also called like the seat of consciousness, which is a part can sit in the seat of consciousness. When I'm fighting with my partner and my angry part is in the seat of consciousness, then I can even look at them and they're uglier, you know, because I'm not seeing from my eyes, I'm seeing from the part's eyes.
Mm.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Nice, Yaniv. Why don't we? Can you set us up for that parts experience, and then
yeah,
we'll go into Q&A and talk a little bit about the upcoming course.
yeah. Let's go into that. I'm noticing the time, and I want to give people the experience and talk about the course. So I will invite everyone to a little practice, just to start getting familiar with your own parts. If you have with you something to write with, like a pen and paper, uh, get that now. I'll give you a few moments to get that. And we're gonna go into a short tuning in. So you're welcome to close your eyes. And I'm noticing as I'm saying this, a part of me that's trying to rush me. And I And I understand why this part is here. And I'm grateful for it. And I'm asking it to kind of step aside to let me do my thing. So start tuning in to your inner experience and notice any sensations in your body, any thoughts, any feelings, and just pick one. Pick one thing. It could be a sensation, it could be a feeling, it could be a thought, something in your experience. And just focus on that. Focus on it. Find it in your body. What does it look like? What does it feel like? Does it have a color? Does it have a shape? Just take a moment to focus on it. And when you feel that you're ready, jot it down on the paper. Like give it some kind of expression on the paper. It can be words, it can be a doodle. It doesn't have to be high art. Just put some kind of expression that you feel from this part on the paper whenever you're ready. And once you're done with that, once you have something on the paper, just be with that for a moment. Just look at what you put on the paper. Notice the feeling in you and be with it until something else comes to the forefront of your experience. Notice if there's anything else that wants to chime in. And once that happens, focus on that. And again, you're trying to find as many properties, you're trying to really give all of your attention to this new sensation, to this new thought that you feel you want to focus on. And again, whenever you're ready, just dot it down on the paper next to the first part. Whatever comes out, words, feelings, sensations, scribbles, faces, whatever you want to put on the paper. And we'll do that one more time. Just take a moment to focus on what you just drew, what you just wrote. Focus on that and internally on that same part. And notice if there's a shift. And whenever there's a shift, shift over and give that part your focus. And get as many details as you can. And when you're ready, give it some kind of expression on the paper. Okay. I'm so curious to see what people came up with. Yeah, I'd love if you would write a few words of what you experienced. What was that like? Things that you noticed. Yeah, just a couple of words or phrases in the chat. I would love, love, love to hear. Eternal organic circling. Could you say more, Chris, while people are finishing up?
Yeah, as you were guiding us through that, reminded me so much of sitting with a group of people and allowing my attention and presence to go with whatever's alive and what in whatever person naturally as it flows.
Yeah, I see that Jessica. Thank you, Chris. And I'm noticing Jessica writing. I had a rush part, then a part that judged the rush part. Um, yeah, Bettina, edgy, turning to kindness, turning to soft tears. Release, relief, and changing of energy. Joy, darkness, teacher, three figures. Wow. Wow. So thank you everybody for sharing. This is pretty incredible. Um,
Mm.
yeah, so we're starting to see that there's a relationship, that there's different parts. And the beautiful thing about this exercise and what we're going to do in the course, we're going to allow these parts to be seen, and that allows them to relax, and be with us more, and allow self to flourish, and the relationship to flourish.
Yeah. Yaniv, how about I'm tracking time. Um, I'm engaged with what everyone's seems so generously sharing in the chat.
Yeah.
Um, I am watching the time. I'm wondering if we can speak a little bit about the course and then hit some Q&A. Does it sound all right to you?
Sounds great. Sounds beautiful. And I love that this is so alive, for everyone and for both of us. And that just means if this is alive for you, you'll get so much out of this course. Yeah. And just to say a few words from me, and I'd love to hear also from you, Chris. For me, this course is about witnessing. It's about being witnessed in the group with all our parts. And it's about creating culture where we can talk to each other about parts, we can let our parts be seen, and use our parts as vehicles for deep, authentic connection. Yeah, IFS and authentic relating are kind of like puzzle pieces for me, and I really want to share that gift, and bring more self energy to yourself and to others, to hold space. We were talking about this, Chris and I, to create this beautiful community of IFS space holders where you can be with your parts while others are in self. Uh, yeah, I'm curious, what's coming up for you, Chris.
Yeah, I felt a lot of love when I saw Dave comment about someone else holding space for me to slow down. Also, Brian resonating with that. There's something about it, Yaniv. If I can be with your self energy, in some way it amplifies my own self energy, or it allows me a way in holding space. So in the course, there'll be 3 2-hour sessions. It will be more of this. It'll be more space holding, and also it'll, as a group, things will come up for us. My parts will start to activate and make themselves known just as I relate with you and others in the group. So not only will we get to hold space for each other and be held, but we'll also get to see what parts come up in relationship. And one of the principles of authentic relating is what happens here often happens everywhere. So even as we can begin to come into contact and get to know these parts of ourselves, that also carries with us when we're engaged in similar situations outside. So yeah, I'd love to have you join us for more of this in this course. Um, I'm gonna put the link in here if you haven't checked it out yet. Um, so we have 18 spaces in that. Um, yeah, I'd love to have people. What are you thinking, Eve?
Yeah, I I noticed that uh, that really resonated what you said around um, yeah, what was that last thing that you said around the hologram, right? The part where this is um, whatever happens in one moment, it happens throughout our lives. And there are parts, in my experience, that only show up in group settings. And they are sometimes the most valuable, most telling parts. And the group setting is so healing. There's so much for us as humans around belonging and authenticity and the apparent clash of these two things, which is what AR really, really brings to the forefront. And these parts just want to belong. These parts want to be part of the whole. So I think yeah, this course is going to be a really beautiful gift, especially for myself. Yeah.
Uh-huh. It's one of my firefighter parts now.
Do you want to go into, is there anything else, or do you want to go into Q&A?
Let's do some Q&A.
Great.
But I just want to say, Yaniv, I love being with you as you're talking about this, because I really, I really get the sense that you're thrilled by it, you're alive with it, you live it, and you want to give it and offer it. Being around you as you're engaging with this fills me up too. So it's just been such a pleasure. All
I feel
right.
my shy parts. Yeah. No, don't talk about me. Okay. Thank you. I really appreciate that, Chris. And it's a pleasure to work with you on this, truly.
There was some kind of there will be more courses, and if this one sells out, we might offer another section as well. Some people asked about that. There were some kind of philosophical questions earlier. Uh, let's see. Do you equate part with a sub personality, or in IFS, do you create a distinction? Anything on sub personality? Does that
Mm.
land with you at all?
Yeah, I think that parts are considered sub personality. Parts through IFS are considered their a complete being in themselves. Richard will also say that they have their own self and their own parts. I think you named that, Chris, in the word fractals. Um, yeah, so I guess you could totally use sub personalities for yeah IFS parts.
Nice. Uh, Another person asks, so each part is basically an automatic loop of thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. That's the question. Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Dave, for that question. So in a way it is, because parts are kind of frozen in the past, in a past experience where they had to step in and protect the system. Um, but they're frozen there, so that means that they think that they still need to protect the system in the same way. Uh, no one has told them, has seen them, has relieved them from this role, has healed the burden that they carry, these unprocessed emotions. So they keep using the same pattern, as you said, an automatic loop um, in a way. But also, that's only the first layer of a part. That's only the role that it takes on because it thinks it helps the system. Once you release a part from its role, it can take on a more valuable role that it wants to take in the system. Yeah. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's a real profound part of this approach, Yaniv, is that the the part can put down it can like drop the swords and shields. And that energy, which was devoted to the swords and shields or whatever, now can be liberated towards something more expansive, creative. Just that idea of like, I might not have to always be You know, there might be a liberation. It's beautiful. Um, let's see. Young Doug Robin from California asked, is the self a separate entity or simply an ever changing conglomeration of our parts?
That's a great question. Um, well, it really depends on how you look at it from like a spiritual perspective or not. For me, the self is us, the parts is us. Um, and I don't think the self is a conglomeration of our parts. I think the self is this kind of, you know, our soul, our own essence, the thing that came here without any burdens or just kind of a light that can shine on our parts and create a relationship with them. um, so yeah, I think of and again, I think it's and depends what is valuable for you in the way that you look at it. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, let's do two more. Do the same roles exist in external family systems?
Uh, I mean, in a way, not. I don't think the firefighters, managers, exiles. I don't know a lot about external family systems or on uh, family systems. Uh, but I just heard we had a few signups in the last few minutes. That's great. Awesome. Um, so I know the idea of the fact that certain people in the family take on roles. For example, I can give my own example. As a child, I took on the role of the responsible adult, even though I was not an adult. My family really needed a responsible adult in the family. There was um, I don't really want to go into details here, but I needed to take on that role, and that role wasn't natural for me. Um, and it took me a long time to release that role in adulthood. Yeah. Um, so yeah, parts take on roles, people take on roles. Um, yeah.
What I noticed with my own family, Yaniv, is when I started to change, kind of get into recovery or take a different path, the rest of the family changed because I was no longer doing the same role I had been doing in my family. And so the system necessarily changes. And that's what I like about the internal system as well. When I can create a space for when the self comes online, things change. You know,
And and I feel like what we're going to notice in our course is that this connection between the internal family and the external family, and how the whole system can transform as our group will transform. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, live. Well, why don't we start to bring it in for a close? We're just about at the hour. Uh, what a fulfilling, rich conversation for me, Yaniv, connecting with you, and I love how things can come from a little idea in a conversation, and now we get to connect with so many people here live.
Yeah, I'm so grateful for everybody that showed up and chimed in. Like, I felt so engaged with everybody. This is amazing. I think I'm gonna go through the chat later just to see like what was written. I'm so curious. Um, thank you everyone for joining. I'd love to see you in our course. It will be really beautiful.
Thanks, everyone. You
Thank
can
you,
find out
Chris.
more at authenticrelating.co, authenticrelating.co, or you could follow the link in the chat. That'll take you to the same domain. And yeah, thank you for being with us. I wish you all well today, rest of your day, and hope to see you in the thing.
And the thing. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Neve.
Thank you, everybody. Love. Love. Thank you.
So many rich comments in here. I wish we could get to them all, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, Yaniv, I'm going to hit the button to
Nice.
end our session.
Thank you.
Connect with you in a little bit. Much love.
Bye bye.